Happy New Year, everybody, and welcome to another Inkscape developer update. My name is Martin. I'm an Inkscape developer trying to create features and fixes that everyday Inkscape users need. Welcome to this end of year report. First of all, I hope everybody has had a good year. I hope everybody will have a good next year. Sparkling. Okay, so first of all, this year, we're going to go into a couple of monetary reports. The reason why I do this is because doing open source development for average everyday users is actually it's a business that isn't well understood yet. And I want to make sure that my experiences are documented, at least in parts, so that other developers who might want to join me in doing things like Patreon have some semblance of how difficult it is and what kinds of things they can expect to see. So, let's see. Okay, so first of all, let's have a look at earnings this year. My total gross earnings this year was the $35,000 or thereabouts. That's about half of what a typical junior developer here in Boston can earn. And as you can see from this pie chart, over half of those earnings were from private contracting. That is usually open source contracts, but not Inkscape related. The other, almost half, actually came in from Inkscape related activities, which is much, much better than last year. And you can see from the chart that Patreon and Inkscape contracting specifically is taking up the biggest chunk. And then we have a chunk for mentoring, and LibrePay and Buy Me a Coffee are also in the mix. Now, so what we're trying to do here is we're trying to earn enough money to make this sustainable, both so that the amount of time that I'm spending on Inkscape can be offset by the amount of money that I'm able to bring in. As you can see from the next graph, this is a month-by-month breakdown of earnings. You can see actually that there's the main Inkscape funding from individual users is actually increasing over the year. So both Patreon, LibrePay, and Buy Me a Coffee, you can kind of see them. That section of the graph is taking over. And the private contracting it started off higher and then it's gone down. And that tends to happen because I'm not spending a lot of time looking for new contracts. So I'm not taking on new clients, and that means that my earnings are suppressed from private contracting. I was hoping to do more Inkscape contracting, but as you may imagine, like finding leads that allow you to do bigger contracts is actually quite hard. But I will be looking for, in 2022, I will be looking for private contracting and Inkscape contracting, as well as continuing to do the Patreon, LibrePay, and Buy Me a Coffee. Hopefully, we can keep growing these funds and spending time doing maybe more things like drumming up leads, finding businesses, contacting them directly. I think I may be spending more time with growing the business. Which I hear from my friends who run businesses is kind of the thing you have to do if you want to be sustainable. Okay, so the third graph that I have here is the amount of time spent. What I did was I took a typical 35-hour work week and divided it by the amount of time spent on each of these activities. You can see the same color coding here. The private contracting, despite it accounting for more than half of the earnings, isn't actually that much of the gross amount of time. And that's because I am quite an expensive programmer if you hire me privately. And the other time spent on, for instance, the Patreon funded time and the contracting time is mixed in. The large teal slice that you can see, that is actually volunteer time. That's the amount of time that I've spent in 2021 working on Inkscape, trying to grow the project, make it a better place for other contributors, trying to make it so that the project is able to be more sustainable in and of itself. The white slice is actually the amount of time that I've spent not working, basically doing other things like these videos, for example, or chasing leads, or sometimes just reading a book. I decided halfway through the year to reduce the amount of time that I was volunteering and to spend more time on that white slice. I think what I'm going to do is, I know that the Patreon stuff is going to grow in 2022, and hopefully so. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to reduce the total amount of volunteer time. Don't forget, this is my work week. This isn't the hobby time, the extra time around the edges. This is the actual meat and potatoes of the job that I do for a living. And so I need to reduce that volunteer slice, probably in half, I would say. So in 2022, I may not be able to work on as many tasks in the Inkscape project unpaid. I'll still try and work on some, and I'll still try and make sure that I'm paying attention to all of the stuff I need to work on, especially growing the project, etc. But I need to think more about how I'm balancing my time here. Over 2021, we had 132 merge requests, over about 300 commits. So that's about a 2.2 commit per merge, which is actually very low. That's mostly because I squash all of my commits. There's some other programmers who have a lot more commits, but they don't squash, so they just got lots of little commits. Whereas stuff like the multi-page work, which was weeks and weeks and weeks of work, that's one merge request, one commit. So if you are interested in hearing more about the technicals, comment below. Let's talk about what you may be interested in hearing from me, which is the technicals of what we got up to the last couple of weeks that I haven't given you an update for. I've added a non-intersecting path feature. This is so that you can break apart text into paths directly without it either creating groups of paths or it creating paths where all the little holes inside of the letters were destroyed. That should make it easier to manipulate text as paths. I fixed the justification in wrapped text. It was a personal pet peeve of mine to constantly try and create justified text inside of a wrapped text box, and to have the lines not justify correctly. You may have seen that one on Twitter. I added translucency on hover. I can't remember if I reported that one previously, but that one got merged in. Basically, it allows you to hover over the items in the object dialog and see the objects that are under it more prominently on the canvas, so you can identify them quicker. I fixed the quick drag detection in the select tool. This is basically where it would not recognize the fact that you want to drag a specific item, and the next detection cycle the mouse has moved, and so it would pick up whatever was under the mouse at that point, which was just wrong. So that's been fixed. It should make it a little easier for you to select items, especially if you're like dragging them straight away. It should feel a little better there. There's also some fixes for the websites, some refinements for the contests, which have been run to kind of do as a community event, which has been great by contributor Pacer. So I worked with them on polishing up a little bit so they can have a little gallery there. That's about it. There's a couple of other fixes and stuff, but I didn't want to really get into them because this video's long enough already. That's about it. 2022 is going to be a pretty interesting year. Hopefully a year of growth and new opportunities. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to see whether I should continue doing weekly videos or whether I should move to a monthly schedule. I'm interested to hear your responses, because you guys are the ones that have to watch these videos. Well, I say have to. You don't have to watch these videos. Would you prefer longer but less frequent videos? Or is the weekly schedule actually good? Like, does that make sense? But apart from that, that's about it. The development schedule is going to move more into bug fixing now as we ramp up for 1.2. I'm still pushing the Inkscape project charity to start funding developers and funding other contributors. So far, the community is very resistant to using its money to fund development, which I fundamentally disagree with, since you just heard how hard it is to actually earn money doing open source work. And having the project's support would make it easier. Not perfectly, but it would definitely ease some of the stresses that happen. But that's about it for this week. Thank you for joining me here for this video, and I hope to see you all next week.